All right, team. So welcome everybody to our class today. So we have a special person on screen that I'm going to introduce. So I have the pleasure to introduce Sarah and help me. I think I got this down right. Maslowski.
There you go.
There you go. So I got that right. And I was taking a look at your bio, Sarah, and there's a lot of things that stood out on the regional call. I'm sorry, not the regional call, the company call on growth call on Monday. They talked a lot about how teachers make amazing real estate agents. And you have a teaching background, don't you?
I do. Yes. I
Yeah,
spent 7 years teaching.
absolutely. So teachers do make great real estate agents. So you're up in the North Georgia area. You have a millionaire real estate agent team. And I was looking at some of your numbers. So I'm seeing here $41 million in volume from YouTube in 2 years.
Yes. And I have really only been doing my YouTube channel seriously for about 2 years. So I share that to inspire you that it doesn't take that long to get things going.
Wow, that's amazing. And I saw there, so 2022, you had $38 million in sales volume, licensed for 5 years. I love what Gary Kelly, he always says that you're 5 years away from achieving all of your goals. I imagine you've achieved a lot of goals in 5 years, and you probably have an amazing 5 years ahead of you. So I'm going to allow you to explain a little bit more about your history and why we should pay attention. You've done a lot of amazing things on YouTube, and we're excited to learn from you. So thank you. And we're all ears. And please, team, anybody who's I saw jump on, please have cameras on. It's a lot better for us interacting in this environment when we have cameras on. So please turn them on if you can. Thank you. Sarah, they're yours.
Thank you so much. I am happy to be here, and thank you all for having me and showing up and willing to hear what I have to say. And I'm excited to share it with you. I was a former teacher, and I graduated with a marketing degree in 2007 at the height of the recession, 2007-8, in like no town, South Georgia, in the middle of nowhere. And so my job prospects were very slim. And my first two marketing jobs that I had right out of college in those small towns, I was laid off from both of those. And so I kind of fell into teaching out of necessity because the town needed teachers. And we moved quite a bit for my husband's job. And so teaching for me was like a really safe career. And I always had a job everywhere I went. And it wasn't until we moved up here to the Metro Atlanta area. I guess we've been here 7-8 years now. And I was in my second year teaching up here. So I guess that was my 6th year of teaching. And I just had kind of like one of those moments of like, what am I doing with my life? I was supremely like unfulfilled. Didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything, and just really didn't get any fulfillment out of teaching. So I was trying to like figure out what I was going to do with my life. And the thought of starting all the way back over with a marketing job seemed very daunting. I was going to have to start all the way back over salary wise and experience wise. And so I kept coming back to real estate because we had moved so many times and always went through the buying and selling process. And every time we went through that process, I was like, oh, that is so easy. I can do that. And jokes on me because it's not easy, right? And but I was so afraid of being 100% commission based and leaving that security of a W-2 job, which I'm sure, many of you are maybe felt that same way as you got into real estate, or if you're just getting into real estate, you might be having that fear as well. And so I was just so unhappy teaching, though, that I felt like if I at least tried hard enough in real estate, that I could at least replace my teacher income, and I could go to the bathroom, and I could have lunch wherever I wanted to. So that was like a huge win for me in my books. So I left teaching in 2018, and I joined a team and was on a real estate team for my first 7 months in the business, and got a ton of great experience there, and went out on my own in 2019. So in 2019, I was going to all these great, amazing classes, and really kept hearing like, hey, you need to make video part of your marketing plan. You need to incorporate video. You need to do video. And so I was like, okay, I'll try video. And I tried a little bit of everything, y'all. And I just was not having good success. And it was really frustrating for me because I was like, what do they mean by do video? I was doing Facebook Lives, and I was doing listing videos, and nothing was really gaining traction, or that I could see like it was paying off. So it was in 2020, I stumbled across a group of agents that were having success on YouTube. And I went to take a look at what they were doing, and I noticed a drastic difference between what they were doing and what I was doing. So at the time, when I was making videos, I was putting them on Facebook and I was uploading them to my YouTube channel and, getting like hardly any views whatsoever. And when I heard that these other agents were having good success, I immediately had to go find out, like, well, what are they doing differently? And I found out that they were doing a lot of things different than what I was doing. So my intention of this class today is I'm going to kind of share with you what I learned in that process, and I'm going to share with you the exact model that I follow and how I implemented that in my business. And so at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I also uploaded an outline of the model for you in the chat. There's a KWRI document there for you that I created with Jason Abrams, and that's really what I'm going to be using as a template to talk to you about today. So feel free to interrupt me with questions at any time. So one of the things that I learned whenever first off, immediately when we hear someone is doing something really well, your natural instinct is to like go and run and kind of like snoop around and see exactly what they're doing. And you want to see like the proof in the pudding. You want to see what that looks like. And so whenever I went to these agents' YouTube channels, one thing I learned is that they had no listing videos on their YouTube channels. They also had no like general buyer and seller tips. It was all videos serving an audience who was potentially relocating to their area. So it was all videos on things that you need to know before moving to blank town. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm not the best at navigating Zoom here, so you'll have to forgive me as I fumble around the screen here so that I can show y'all. But I want to show you those earlier videos of what I was posting on YouTube. Okay, y'all can see my screen? Yes, okay, great. So I have this ranked from oldest video to newest. So you'll see that 4 years ago, 2019, I started posting whatever I was trying video content wise and posting that on YouTube, and I was posting these on Facebook. So how to prevent mold and moisture in your home, why a home inspection is so important, how to file an appeal on your property taxes. And you can see that these videos, even 4 years later, even with the success of my channel, only have 191, 100 and something views 4 years later. And you'll see tips about selling a house, 42 views in 3 years. Like that's crazy stupid low. And then you'll see that I had the great idea, like, well, maybe if I become the mayor of my town and I interview restaurant owners, we heard that advice at some point, right? Become the mayor of your town and interview people, business owners, maybe that will cause people to watch. And those videos didn't do anything either. But it was around this time where I figured out that when I started researching other agents that were having success with YouTube, they were making this type of content, which living in Gainesville, Georgia, which is where I live, pros and cons. And you'll see that in 3 years, that video has gotten 12,000 views, whereas this listing video from 3 years ago that I posted around the same time has 119 views. And the difference is the type of content that I was making. And so when I found out that these other agents weren't making these restaurant videos, they weren't making listing videos and putting them on YouTube, but they were making relocation-based content, I was like, okay, well, I think I can do this. Let me try. And you can see it took me a few months or whatever before I really started switching fully over to buying into this idea that you needed to make relocation-based content. And so you can kind of see like this is right around the mark where I made that switch of everything thereafter became nothing but content on moving to the area and things that you need to know. And if you think about it, the reason for that is that you are serving an audience, a very specific audience. And if you're making just general videos, it's incredibly hard to capture a local audience with those generalized videos. It's also incredibly hard to differentiate yourself as an agent on YouTube if you're just making those generalized videos, because you're competing with thousands of other agents that are also making those generalized buyer and seller tips. And so by making really specific content, you're serving a very specific audience that is searching for that YouTube content. So it was also around the same time that well, y'all have the benefit of being in Naples, Florida, right? So y'all get a lot of people that are relocating to your area, that are retiring down to Florida. When I started this, there was a person teaching a YouTube course, and they taught that you needed to do some keyword research to figure out how many people were searching for moving to your town each month. And when I did this in 2020, there were 20 people a month that were searching on Google, moving to Gainesville, Georgia. And I don't know how that 20 number lands with you, but with me, that felt like not a whole lot of people. And I was like, this feels like I'm making content for just 20 people a month. That seems very, very low. Comparatively to like these other agents in these much bigger markets where they're getting hundreds and thousands of searches a month of people seeking out that information. So I thought about it for a little bit longer, and then I was like, well, hey, if I'm the only agent making content, and I'm the only agent whose videos show up, and 20 people a month are thinking about moving here, I'm not currently working with 20 people a month. And so even if I could work with half of those people each month, that would still be a huge win in my book. So I kind of flipped my thinking on that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So going back to me learning what those other agents were doing, I learned that they were making solely content, educating people about relocating to their town. And what I noticed is that they were, the videos weren't that good. So I went and watched some of their videos, and the editing wasn't that great. The sound wasn't that great. They were a little bit awkward, and their personality felt a little strange to me. But that gave me a lot of inspiration. I was like, well, if they can do it and they're having success and they're getting business from this videos or this quality of video and this style of presentation, like I felt like I could at least match that, so it gave me a little bit of confidence to, okay, let's try this. Let's do this. So speaking of like, let's try this, let's do this. Anybody in the business here, like less than 3 years? Okay. All right. So, and this kind of applies to no matter how long you've been in the business, but for me personally, I would go to these amazing classes and hear from these great speakers and trainers that we have access to at KW. And you would hear like a great lead generation strategy. And you're like, oh, okay, that sounds like I could do that. That's exciting. Yes, I'm going to go try that. And then you take, what you can from that and you go out and you try to implement it. And then like 2 weeks into it, you're like, this isn't for me. This isn't working. And then about that time, you're in another class and you hear another good idea and you're like, oh, that's the idea for me. And you're like bouncing around from lead generation strategy to lead generation strategy. That was me, my first 2 years in the business. I was trying a little bit of anything and everything. And I was getting business, but I wasn't like diving deep into any one lead generation strategy. I had a couple of people from open houses, a couple of people from cold calling, from door knocking, and I was hustling really hard, but I wasn't really working very smart because I wasn't going really deep into a few lead generation strategies, which is what we've heard, and we hear this all the time, pick your 3 pillars, make something your one thing, and really go deep into it. So I had a kind of like self-talk with myself, and I was like, okay, if we're going to try this video strategy, we've got to quit having like shiny object syndrome. Let's really like be intentionally focused on really implementing this, and let's give it a good 90 days before you give up on yourself. I'd never made it that long in trying anything before when it comes to lead generation in business without giving up on it. So one of the things that I learned from these other agents that were having good success with YouTube videos is that you have to commit to putting out a video once a week religiously. You have to pick your day and time, and you have to hit that mark every single week. And the important thing about that And why that's so important is that you're teaching YouTube, the algorithm, that you are a channel that consistently produces content, so that if they're going to push your videos out to an audience to test to see if they're going to watch it, they want to know that they can count on your channel to keep producing more content. Because YouTube is an ad generation business and they want to serve ads and they want to keep people on YouTube for as long as possible. So the more of your content that they have to show people, and the more they can consistently keep feeding people that are watching it, the better. If you're sporadically posting content, it's not going to work. So I knew going into this that I had to post consistently once a week. And I told myself that it was going to be, a good 90 days before I would evaluate if the strategy was working. So those first days, first weeks, I'm posting videos. And does anybody consume content on YouTube? Like, do you regularly go to YouTube and watch videos?
Fall trap of that.
Okay. I am not someone that goes to YouTube and watches content. I would only seek out YouTube videos if like something was broken in my house and I needed to try to figure out how to fix it, or like a makeup tutorial, something like specifically that I had a need for. So just going and watching videos on YouTube was kind of like a foreign concept that people do this. And, but, as soon as you put something out there in the world, especially social media wise, we want that instant validation that what we're doing is working. So I posted my first video, like hours later, you're like going and checking the analytics and nobody's watched it. And you're like, okay, well, it's just been a few hours. And so then the next day you go and you check it and it's like 2 people have watched the video. And you're like, okay, it's just the first day. And then later on in the week, you go and you check it. I say later on, I was checking it every single day, multiple times a day. And I'd only gotten up to like 12 views. And that was very discouraging. And I was like, well, it's okay. It's only the first week. So repeated the second and the third week and pretty much had the same exact results. And it was very discouraging. And but I had made that commitment to myself that I was going to keep going. And so I did keep going. And I just want to share that with you, that it takes a little while to get things going. And one thing I quickly learned while doing this is that I am not an editor. So you are going to have these videos edited so that it presents well on camera and so that you're giving someone something decent to watch. And I thought I was a jack of all trades and that I could do it all. I'm also notoriously cheap. I hate spending money. And so anytime in business, I'm like, oh, I can do it. No matter if it takes me like 5 hours to figure out how to do it, like I can do it. I'm saving money. But what we learned is that that's not really true, and that your time is better spent doing other things like lead generation and working with clients than it is editing videos. So it was like 10 o'clock at night and I was editing a video, had to get it out that weekend. And I realized that, okay, this is not sustainable. If I'm going to make it the 90-day mark, I can't be editing my videos. So you're going to have to leverage out and hire out to an editor. That is key. I can't stress that enough. Even if you're decent at editing, you're still just not going to have enough time for it if you are running a business like you should be doing, because it's going to take a while to get this lead generation machine up and going, and you're going to need to feed your family in the meantime. So you're going to want to leverage out an editor. There's many great places you can find them. Fiverr, you can ask other recommendations. If you have a teenager, you can hire them. You might have a college kid, lots of places that you can find it. And your first editor that you work with may not be the one that you end up long-term working with, but just get started. So it was a couple of weeks into it was 6 weeks into posting videos, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and my phone rang, and it was a number I did not recognize. So I answer it, not expecting anything. And it was a guy from Texas, and he was like, hey, I just watched all of your YouTube videos. We are, I have a job opportunity to come to Gainesville, and we want to talk to you about making a move there. And y'all, I was so excited. I was like trying to like remember like what you're supposed to say to a buyer whenever they reach out, because I just couldn't believe that this was like someone was calling me and freaking out. I was like, it worked. So I had that conversation with him, and I went and ran through the house to try to find my husband. And I was like, someone called me from YouTube. And he was like, what? And he just completely didn't get it. But it was so inspiring to me to keep going. I was like, okay, here's a little bit of proof that this is working. And keep in mind that at the time that that person reached out, if you were to go back and look at my video views at that time period, maybe the highest video had like 20 something views, and probably I had like 12 subscribers. So one thing I learned in this journey, comparing my success to other agents who have had success in YouTube, is that depending upon your market, you may experience way more views and way more subscribers early on in the process than other people may. And the only thing that matters is, are people reaching out to you and calling you? Because at the end of the day, if you have hundreds of thousands of views, if you have thousands of subscribers, but no one's ever calling you to help them move and actually do business with you, it doesn't matter. It's just vanity metrics. And so I had to keep reminding myself of that throughout this process. And I really think that that very first phone call like reinforced that, right? Because on paper, it didn't look good. But I had proof that it worked, that someone was reaching out. So kept making those videos. And so that was kind of like in October of 2020 when I really committed to that strategy. And we had a few more reach outs that fall, and we ended up closing our first deal and put it under contract that fall from someone that relocated from Louisiana, and closed them out by the end of the year, and had one new construction contract under contract that was closing the beginning of 2021. And so that gave me a lot of inspiration to keep going. And really, we have not looked back. And I say we, I have an assistant. She's now a showing agent, and she really works with a lot of our clients as well. And so that's kind of like the journey of getting started. And I'll have to tell you, if you go back to my first videos on the channel, those videos that got those reach outs were terrible videos. You're not going to be good on those first videos that you make. You're going to do the best you can. And if you're waiting for those videos to be completely perfect and your editing's just right, and you have the perfect background and you know exactly what you want to say, you're never going to get started. You have to improve as you go and just put it out there. And you also have to remember that as I did, I saw those other people's videos and they weren't that good either. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is all it takes. You're going to get better as you go. So, so that's important. So going back to kind of like the model and the strategy, you want to identify who your audience is. And the important thing to know about that is that you want to be very specific in the content that you make. And the fastest way to success on YouTube is making videos helping people about relocating to your area. Those are the people that are on YouTube searching for information and searching for a real estate agent. Your local people are not on YouTube searching for real estate agents or searching for real estate in general. They're looking in other areas. So the people that are already on YouTube searching are the relocation type clients, and those are the types of people that you want to make that content for. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my model to make sure that I stay on track here. And I'm not good at using my computer. There we go. Okay, I got it. All right. I have on here that you want to make sure that you time block for video production. And this is a rabbit hole, y'all. If you're like me, like you can get sucked into learning about something new, and it's really exciting and new at the beginning. And so you spend all of this energy, time, and effort on working on something. You have to time block because you can get sucked into this and invest a ton of time on it. And if you're still not leaving margin in your day and in your schedule to actually work on your business and service clients and get clients, you're going to get yourself in a really big pickle. So the next thing that you need to know that I learned from other agents that were having success on YouTube is that you really want to plan out your content. And the easiest way to plan out that content is by creating 4 buckets of content. And what I mean by that is that you want to have 4 types of topics that you can rotate through. And that is important because whenever you publish a video, YouTube is taking that video that you publish, they're pushing it out to the people that you subscribe to, but they're also pushing that out to people that they think might have an interest in what you just made. And YouTube's algorithm needs a couple of weeks to figure out and learn, hey, Sally in Wisconsin just watched this video. Susie in Texas also has similar online behaviors. Let's put this video in front of her and see if she watches it. And so the YouTube algorithm is constantly doing that, and they're testing out who's watching it and they're learning who is watching it and who's not. And then they push it out to more similar profiles. And the more that YouTube can dial that in for your channel, the more views that you're going to have and the more quality viewers you will have watching your content. If you are putting out video after video after video back to back to back that's way too similar, those videos don't have enough time to kind of like absorb the YouTube algorithm and work properly. I'm sure there's a more technical explanation than what I just gave you, but that's how I understand it. And it seems to be really working. So also, whenever you're planning out this content, it's really helpful because it gives you a cadence and video topics to stick to, and it just makes that planning process a lot easier. So an example of buckets of content that I went through in the beginning was pros and cons of living in blank town. The second bucket of content was cost of living. How much does it cost of living in blank town? Creating a list, 5 reasons to move to blank, 10 things to know about blank town. You can create a list about anything, just make sure that you're putting a location in there and that's your video. And then lastly, a content bucket for me is up here in North Metro Atlanta, we have a big lake called Lake Lanier, and it's a huge secondary market for homes. And also a lot of people, seek out that destination for living year round. And so I created a bucket of content about living on the lake and everything you needed to know, especially about buying a house on the lake. So I would rotate through those 4 buckets of content every single month. And it also helped planning out what I was going to do and say, and plan out those videos much, much easier. So we've talked about identifying your audience and who you're making the videos for, and we've talked about how to plan out that content. I'm going to pause here to see if there's any questions about any of those first kind of 2 topics that I've covered or anything that's come into mind for you.
Going once, twice. I got a couple quick ones, maybe rapid fire.
Sure.
We can do. Is your lead gen time shooting videos, or is your lead gen time still calls and then you have to or when you're shooting videos, etc.?
So in the beginning, in 2021, part of 2022, it was still very much video was kind of like a third of my business. And I was still doing a lot of open houses and lead generating in other ways. Now it's kind of shifted that I really only do sphere related business and video. So in 2021, I think we closed 15 million in volume from YouTube. And I think that equated to, no, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, I'll have to go back and do the numbers. Maybe 15 or 20 families that we served in 2021 from YouTube. In 2022, that turned into over 40 families that we served from YouTube. And that was 27 million in volume. So one of the good things about this strategy is that it's kind of has like exponential growth naturally on its own. My energy and effort hasn't changed, since 2020. I'm still making a video every single week. That has not changed. What has changed is that now I have a backlog of content that someone can binge watch. And so instead of, if someone discovered my channel at the beginning of 2021, there was probably 10 videos that they could watch. Now I have 10 videos on each town that I serve. And so there's a lot of exponential growth that just happens naturally from YouTube just doing its thing with your videos.
All right, cool. Jay, were you gonna ask something, Jay?
Oh no, I'm just listening carefully.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Quick question. I didn't have a chance to review any of your videos yet. What did you find out is the average length that you get the most activity from? Is there such a minutes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the unique thing about YouTube, unlike maybe, well, Instagram's now kind of changed their algorithm too, but YouTube really rewards how long people stay and watch your content rather than the percentage that they watch. So because of that, it's better to have a longer video that maybe someone watches half of rather than a shorter video that someone watches all of it. So if I have a 10-minute video that someone watches 4 minutes and 30 seconds of, and I have a 4-minute video that someone watches the entire thing, YouTube is going to favor that 4-minute and 30-second watch time over the 4-minute watch time. So I always aim for kind of like a sweet spot of between 8 to 10 minutes for my videos. And what I've learned is that if you go past the 10-minute mark, it's really hard to keep someone's attention, and it's really hard to go for that long. You have to be like super engaging, and it's really hard to keep someone's attention for that long. And you'll find that whenever you look at the analytics, most people are not going to watch all of your video. A very, very few will. And those are probably the few that have the highest intent of doing something. But most people will end up watching about 50% of your content if they watch. So yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Do you overlap your YouTube videos with Instagram Reels, or are they two totally different videos?
Yeah, great question. So I am a firm believer in, when I was trying to figure out YouTube, it was very like, this was all I could do. It was all that I had the brain power for. And it felt like with a YouTube video, it's just a little bit more time consuming, right? Because you're producing an 8 to a 10-minute video versus an Instagram Reel or TikTok, it's 30 seconds, a minute long. And, you know, we hear all the time of like, oh, make a long form piece of content, and then you can cut it up and repurpose it into short form content, and just do that. I've tried doing that. It's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to take like a 1-minute section out of a video and have it make sense and it be engaging and keep someone's attention. And what I found is that in the time that it would take me to watch a video, try to find like what would be the minute piece, communicate that to the editor, go back and forth, it takes just as long or a much shorter amount of time for me just to film that short form piece of content. And I've only just started like a few months ago trying to put out short form content and have success. And so I'm not seeing any traction with that yet. And, you know, I'm kind of taking the same approach that I did with YouTube and, you know, baby steps and start where you can and just get going and learn as you go. So that is what I've learned about that. Yeah. Good question. So on that note, do y'all consume content on Reels, TikTok? Yeah, okay. So whenever I started this, TikTok and Instagram Reels weren't really a thing. And so they, you know, just kind of exploded in popularity over the past year and a half or so. And because of the growth of short form content, and I'm sure you've experienced this yourself, or if you're like me, you're scrolling on TikTok and you get to a video and the content seems interesting or the topic does, but then the person is like taking forever to get to the point of the video that they're making. And you're like, okay, on to the next video. Like, I don't have time for this. That is the same thing and the same kind of approach that you want to take if you're making short form or long form content. You want to like get to the point. Start your video, make sure that you're saying something really engaging within the first 15 seconds, really in the first 5 seconds, and just get into the meat and the content of your video. If you go back and you watch a lot of older videos of maybe agents, or kind of like an old school way of doing YouTube content was to have like a little intro video at the beginning of your video, like where your logo would spin through, and there'd be like a compilation video of you like doing things, and then it would cut back to you on camera, and then you would introduce yourself, and then you would get to the content. that doesn't work, and you're going to lose viewers, and people are just going to bounce off your channel and bounce off your videos if you do that. So get straight into it and then introduce yourself at some point in the video. Surprisingly, I saw a post that some other agents made that were doing YouTube videos, and many of them like never introduced themselves in their video, which I thought was interesting. So another kind of old school tactic of YouTube videos was that on the beginning of the video, you would hear them say, okay, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. There'd be like bells and whistles that would go off. That also kind of is not a good way anymore, because from my understanding, viewers kind of see that as annoying and salesy. And if people are finding value in the content that you're delivering, they will naturally subscribe to your channel. So that's not something that I push a whole lot. And it just naturally kind of happens. So another cool thing about this strategy, and this is something I learned in the beginning, kind of like an old strategy of agents that initially tested this out when they were making YouTube content. Some of these agents would say, hey, if you're thinking about making a move here, download my free relocation guide. You'll find that link below the video, and I'll send that to you. And that relocation guide would like send them, that link would send them to a landing page. They would fill out a form, a lead capture form, and then they would get this free guide. Well, what I learned from other agents that did that is that it would just create a bunch of back-end work for that agent of giving them leads, but they weren't people that really wanted to be contacted. And it just created some additional work. So people, the agents that were having great success with making content, they were like, yeah, I don't do that at all. I just simply say, hey, if you're thinking about making a move, make sure you call me. You can find my phone number below the video. Look forward to connecting with you. And that is the exact approach that I took. And so the magic of this, y'all, is that when someone reaches out to you and talks to you, they have a very, very high intent of moving. And what I've learned is that they almost fall like into one or two categories. Either they're calling you to say, hey, we're coming in 2 weeks. Our goal is to buy a house. Or they're calling to say, yeah, we're going to be moving in a few months. And then occasionally you get the people that are like, well, we're thinking about retiring there in 3 years and we want to talk to you. And you're like, 3 years, call me in 2.5 and we'll talk about what the real estate market's like then. So it's unlike any other online lead generation strategy that I've ever been a part of. Like there isn't really any lead conversion per se that you have to do. You still have to follow up and nurture those leads that are a couple of months out or that may not be making a move for 6 months, but they're reaching out to you because you provided so much great value and content and knowledge. And most of these people have no connection to a real estate agent to where they're moving from. Another really cool thing is that whenever you're making the content, the more stories and personality that you can give them of yourself, the much better effectiveness your content is going to come across. And so that was something that I had to learn a little bit. Instead of like being super professional in my content and what I was telling them, I would start sprinkling in stories about my husband, and we live on the lake and he tries to go fishing and he never catches any fish. And I started telling more of that. And it's funny because people like really listen and watch what you say. And so I was with some clients and they were from California moving out here. We were showing property and we were at this one house and I was with the husband and he said, hey, does your husband really never catch any fish on the lake? And I was like, what? I was like, oh, I did say that in a video. Yes. I was like, yeah, he doesn't really hardly ever catch anything. But it's interesting to me, like how much they remember of the videos that you do. Like you forget what you say and they are like hanging on every word and they really get to know you from your videos. So most of the people that you end up working with from this lead generation strategy really like you and have a connection with you. Embarrassingly, some people will like call them like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking to you. And you're like, I'm just me, and so that's a funny and a little bit, for me, it's a little bit uncomfortable, and some people will think that's, really cool. So they think it's cool. So capturing leads is not that hard. You just make sure that you tell them, how they can contact you, make sure that your number is available, make sure that you have a website available for them to go to. If they want to contact you, they will contact you. The next thing that you need to know is about posting the actual video. So you are going to have a description below your video. Your video description needs to give a couple of sentences about what your video is about. And it doesn't have to be some like super detailed researched description. It's just kind of like a little summary of what they're going to learn in the video. And one of the things that, if you decide to kind of like dive into this a little bit deeper, you might come across some tools like TubeBuddy, or can't remember what the other one is called. And that like allows you to input your title and input SEO keywords like hashtags, and it'll give you like a score of like how well your video ranks, and it'll like have like a little meter, and you're trying to get into the green and not the red. Don't do that. It's just a complete waste of time. You can spend an hour or more than an hour, if you're me, trying to like optimize everything and make it perfect, and it's just time wasted. So long as you're titling your video with like the name of your town and kind of keeping that title short, and as long as you're putting a description and you're putting hashtags in there, that's really all that matters. YouTube will do its thing and will find your audience. And I think it's important for you to know that I am not very creative at all. So when I started doing this, and this was really something that I picked up of being in our great brokerage, Keller Williams, we are taught to follow systems and models. If you can just find someone else that has had success and that has done this before you, and if you can just duplicate what they've done and not try to change a whole lot, that will lead to success. And that is exactly the approach that I took to this whenever I found other agents that were having success. I would go to their channel. They would be making YouTube videos about moving to Dallas, Texas. And I'm like, oh, they just made a video about 5 reasons people hate moving here. Okay, I'm going to go make a video about 5 reasons people hate moving to my town. And oh, they just made a pros and cons about this, and they said something like this. I'm going to go duplicate that here. That's all I did. And that's all you have to do too. You don't really have to reinvent the wheel. And I would really encourage you not to reinvent the wheel. Just lean into it, and then later on add your own creativity or try your own unique thing if you want to. But there's lots of people that have had great success with this, and it doesn't require a whole lot of creativity, as I have shown. Okay, the last thing, we talked about capturing leads. And if you are a solo agent and you're going to try this lead strategy, I would strongly encourage you that whenever you're making your content, to talk about your team, even if you're a solo agent, because you never know that this could be something that really accelerates your business and explodes it. And you may have a team one day down the road, or you may be in a position where you can't service the amount of people that are reaching out to you, and they may be working with someone else. And so if you start making your content, and this is something that I wish I would have done from the beginning, but if you say, my team and I serve this area and we're excited to work with you, if and when in the future you do have a team, it's a really, really easy handoff, because they expect that it may not be you that works with them. So that's something that I would really make sure that you do. Another thing that we kind of realized early on whenever we made this is that I just had the one phone number, and we get tons of phone calls. As real estate agents, we get tons of spam phone calls, car warranty phone calls, and we created a separate Google business number that we put only on our YouTube channel. And what that did for us is it allowed us to say, like, hey, if this line is ringing, that is a lead. That is someone that we need to pay attention to. And that, yeah, the money line. Yeah, great job. Yeah, that is the money line. And so it also helps you understand that, like, if you're in the middle of the grocery store, now might not be the time to take that phone call. So just know that that is something also that I wish I would have done immediately from the beginning. And so I would strongly encourage you to do that. And it's also a great way to track your leads that come in as well. So if anyone leaves a comment on your video, which eventually people will start engaging with your channel, you want to make sure that you engage with those comments back. That really helps the YouTube algorithm. Obviously, the people that come in, you want to treat them just like you would any other lead, put them into your database, put them on some sort of follow-up plan to make sure that you are following up with them. Because let me tell you, it's easy. And I've made this mistake. I've lost business from clients that have reached out to me that says, hey, we're thinking about making a move next year. We just wanted to reach out to you early. And then I don't stay in contact with them enough. And then I remember them or something makes me think of them. And I reach out and they're like, oh yeah, well, we didn't hear back from you. So we worked with someone else. Like gut punch, right? And that is something that you don't want to become complacent or, really still treat this like a business and like they're any other lead that you're putting into your CRM. So that is my advice. I also get a lot of questions on what type of equipment I use. I think I shared with y'all that I'm not very technologically savvy. And whenever I saw these other agents having success, a lot of those agents were just filming the videos on their iPhone. And I already had an iPhone and how to operate it. So that's what I did. So you're going to need something to film with. Your iPhone works just fine. So you don't have to invest in that. You will need to make sure that you have a good microphone, a good microphone. And you can get a decent middle of the road one on Amazon for under $100. And you're going to want to make sure that you have some good lights if you're filming at your house or somewhere like in a stagnant location. And one of the things you'll find is that if you go look at other agents who have had success, people are doing this in lots of different ways. I film my videos, what we call talking head style, where I'm just talking to the camera. And then there's B-roll that comes on the screen on top of me. But then there's a lot of agents that will film on location. So they're talking about, the great neighborhoods of whatever town. They're like walking down the street, talking to the camera on a selfie stick in front of that neighborhood or in that neighborhood. And whatever way that you can consistently produce videos that works for you, that is the way that you should do it. What I learned for me is that filming on location didn't quite work out as well. I would time block for it, and then the weather wouldn't cooperate, or a client emergency would pop up, or the trash truck would be going by and the kids would be getting off the school bus. And what would take normally 30 minutes to do, it was taking like an hour and a half. And I was like, oh, this isn't sustainable and this is stressful. So for me, I found it easier to just film at my house and like a little studio setup that I created. And mostly I kind of film my videos on a Sunday afternoon, and I like to batch film. So I film 2 or 3 videos at a time for the month, so that I'm always a couple weeks ahead, that we have those to give them out to our editor. And that's what worked really well for me, but that a lot of other agents have success doing it a lot of other different ways. So I think that is it for what I had to go over with about the actual model. And so we have exactly 10 minutes left, and I'd love to answer some of the questions that you may have that might have popped up for you as we've been talking.
I think Jeffrey had a question. I think he might be unmuting in the chat box. Yeah, but could you repeat your 4 content buckets again?
Yeah, and these don't have to be like your 4 content buckets. And this is on the document that I uploaded in the chat box. But mine were pros and cons, cost of living, making a list video. So 5 reasons, 5 things, 10 things, 5 mistakes people make. And then for me, it was the lake, a lake video. So if you have a specific neighborhood, or maybe y'all might have a lot of 55 plus communities. I don't know, like maybe retirement might be your thing, or maybe golf course communities might be your thing. You can niche down into a really specific audience type as well, if you would like. Or you can come up with another bucket of content. It doesn't have to be exactly those 4 things, and I got those ideas from looking at other people's channels and figuring out successful videos that they were having as well. Yeah. Questions? let's see, maybe someone's in the chat has a question. Do you use drone shots? Yes and no. And so you want to incorporate B-roll into your videos, and B-roll is video that's like not you talking. So you would still hear my voice talking, but if I'm talking about the lake, you would actually see pictures or videos of the lake. And that is what's considered B-roll. Anytime you are on camera for like more than 5 seconds, that's too long, because people are going to get tired of just looking at you and listening to you. They want to actually like visually see what you're talking about as well. Like that's the value that you're providing. And so in the very beginning and then the initial videos, we had like no B-roll to speak of. And so we would rely heavily on Google Images to be the B-roll. And so it would be photos popping up as I'm talking about things. And as we got a little bit more comfortable, we would actually go out and shoot that B-roll ourselves. And so it was filmed on my phone with a gimbal. That's a thing that like stabilizes your iPhone and helps give you like great shots. And we also experimented with leveraging that out and hiring a videographer to go out into the community to get that B-roll as well. So one trick that we have learned, or something we've learned along the way that's helped make this a little bit more manageable, is that as you're doing these buckets of content, and if you're really leaning heavily into this, whenever you make a video about a town or an area, that's not going to be the only video you make about that town. So you're going to need multiple different shots of B-roll so that the next time you make that video, you already have something already done, and that you're not having to go out every single week and gather those images together. So we knew, hey, my town of Gainesville, we're going to consistently talk about that. So if we're going to send a videographer out to get B-roll, we would give him a list of all the things that we could think that we would ever talk about in a video, and say, hey, we want 5 different shots, or 5 minutes worth of footage of this one area, so that the editor could then like slice up those video clips, and we would have a little library to choose from when we were making future videos. And so that really kind of cut down the time that we had to spend putting the video pieces together to give to the editor, so that we had a library of footage that we could pull from. So the videographer would sometimes use drone shots, and I would say that whenever you're making a video, it's fine to sprinkle those in there sporadically, but like lots of drone footage is just not that enjoyable to watch from an everyday viewer's perspective. So that was a really long answer. I'm sorry. Any other questions?
Your time, team, if you're thinking of this strategy being something you want to pursue, ask away.
So I think I'll just share this with y'all, that sometimes we get like some amazing clients that reach out. So I share with y'all that I was a teacher, and we had only lived here for 3 years when I made the decision to switch into real estate. So the only people I knew were other teachers. Teachers do not make a lot of money, so my sphere average price point was fairly low. And the listing opportunities that I had from my sphere, from my area, was also kind of like, lower middle class family houses that I was selling. And the unique thing about making content is that you're going to attract a wide variety of people that are attracted to your content. And so I have worked with many, many, many $1 million plus sales and buyers, cash buyers, and it's really kind of expanded my average price point that I work with in a way that the sphere people that I have here locally like never would have given me that opportunity. And so that's been a really cool thing that I never knew whenever I started this, that was even something that was a possibility. When I got that first phone call and they told me that they could spend 1.5, and I was like, oh my gosh, whereas at that time, my average price point was like 350, so that was like a huge win. And it's just really cool that you're able to kind of attract lots of different people from lots of different lifestyles with various different incomes.
Yeah. Jeffrey, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, how successful are the types of videos that are without your face in them? I noticed that sometimes people make videos on YouTube that are just, dialogue and other video without the person's face on them.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. And I would say that not very successful, especially if you're making content about helping someone relocate to the area. It's really important that they see you and they get to know you and they know what you look like and they know how you act and they know how you talk. They want to work with someone and form that relationship with someone through watching videos that is going to compel them to want to call you and reach out and say, hey, we just watched your videos and we want to work with you. I would imagine that it's very hard to do that just by making a video that has nothing but a voiceover. And I know some people have lots of views on channels where they just do walkthrough video tours. And I don't know of any agent that I've networked with that has had success with actually converting leads from that strategy. I'm speaking from the strategy of educating people and being on camera, and those are all the agents that I know that are having great success implementing the strategy that are actually getting business from it. So I can't speak to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one thing I'll end with this on, if there's no other questions, is that just taking it back to the beginning, there are lots of different agents having all kinds of great success from all different backgrounds, all different ages, all different looks, all different accents. And that is so cool because you are going to attract the audience that wants to work with you. And there are people out there that will get a lot of value from what you have to say. And you might be thinking in your head, like, I'm not cut out for video, or I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I'm not super poised, or I can't be like that. You don't have to be like that. You just have to be you. And you have to, deliver the information and give them the information that they want. And there's a lot of great agents that are having really good success with this. There's a KW agent, he's in Palm Beach, and I give him as an example all the time. He makes videos in Hawaiian print shirts, shorts, on his bicycle with a GoPro camera. And he's talking to the camera as he's bicycling around the neighborhood and like showing shots of the neighborhood and driving down the street and talking about the ice cream shop and like, this is where the post office is. And, that's really cool. That's a unique way of doing it. And that's his personality. And he's not like, in front of a camera at his house with the background. So there's lots of different ways to have success with this.
So
Okay.
we want to respect your time, and I know we're about up. So team, any referrals, all of Georgia, just mostly North Georgia? Where do we send the referrals to over in your area?
Yeah, so I work primarily North Georgia, so North Metro Atlanta area. A lot of people, when they say they're moving to Atlanta, they're actually moving to the suburbs of Atlanta, which is what I serve. And I really wanted to connect with my KW market centers down in Florida because we surprisingly get a lot of people moving from Florida to Georgia. And even though y'all are getting a lot of inbound people, we also get a lot of people moving up here from your area as well. So occasionally I connect with some really great people that are moving that also have a house to sell and they don't know of an agent. And so I get the opportunity to connect with other agents and say, hey, I have someone, that needs to sell a house so that they can move here to Georgia. So I would love to, I'm happy that I made this connection with your office so that I know some of you now that I'll be able to make that warm referral.
Awesome. Well, I've sent you a Facebook friend request. Everybody else sent her a Facebook friend request as well. And again, keep her in mind, any referrals up in North Georgia. We thank you so much, Sarah, for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everyone.